nurture groups were actually started in 1969 in inner London by an educational psychologist called Marjorie Boxall. She changed the way of looking at behaviour and she focused on early development. She realised that children were coming to school without a lot of early experiences or attachment, and she realised very early on that there was a need for this. If children were to make progress, we had to provide for them the experiences that they lacked at home.
A nurture group is a teacher-led intervention with typically 12 or less children involved in the group. We have a small group of 3 at the moment here with the older children, and I work with them. And what basically we're trying to do is replace early missing nurturing experiences or distorted nurturing experiences by creating an environment that's warm and caring and building up a level of trust so that relationships can flourish with staff and with peers.
We started our first nurture group here in Carnshore 2 years ago when we found that children were coming to school with a lack of attachment, and some of our children were showing signs of behavioural problems and emotional attachment. So we tried to provide these.
The school works as a whole in deciding who goes into the nurture groups. Staff are very aware of these children and they're watching them within the classrooms, and we're not so interested in their actual academic performance. It's much more like their developmental progress. So we're trying to look at the children's behaviour, their social engagement and their cognitive engagement in classrooms. And when we identify children who are maybe not reaching these milestones, we then use what we call the Boxall profile. And the Boxall profile gives us an overview of these areas so we can have a wee bit more information on the children's behaviour, their social relationships and their cognitive engagement in the classroom. We get information from this, and then we also can use what's called a Strengths and Differences questionnaire. That really complements the Boxall profile because we can look at the areas that the children are succeeding in, but then we can look at where their difficulties lie, and then we can come all around with a kind of idea as to how we can support them within the nurture group.
Some of the things we do here in Carnshore are we take the children out for one afternoon a week to a local wildlife reserve, and that's run by a countryside ranger. And there they get to experience lots of active and outdoor learning and craft, and also have the chance to run off lots of excess energy while also learning about the environment and nature. They really enjoy that, and it's, I think, good to take them out to experience another member of staff that they're not familiar with.
The Boxall and the Strengths and Differences questionnaire are kind of formal assessments, but because, as I said, it's a whole staff initiative, we're constantly gathering information on children. We're gathering information from the classroom, from the dinner hall, from the playground. We really have to look at the whole child to try and see where we can help them. So when we have gathered information from the formal process and the informal process, we come together and we meet together to try and see who would actually benefit from being in this group. Obviously, we usually anyway have many more children than we actually have spaces for in the group. So then we have to look at the children who will work together well. We look at the balance that we've got in that group. So boys with girls. We look at the dynamics of the children. Often these children have come from, they maybe experienced something very traumatic in their life, or their parents have, and they've not been able to care for them in the way that they would have wanted to. So often their behaviour can be quite challenging. And if it's going to be a successful group, it's really important we get that balance correct, that we look at the dynamics and see children who will get along well together.
We also try to provide lots of sensory and tactile experiences for the children, as that can be something that they've missed out in early childhood. So we bake, we make things, we make Play-Doh, we play with Play-Doh, plasticine, water, sand, lots of different feelings and textures for them to explore. And often we have some calming music in the background while they're doing these activities, and that seems to add to the calmness of the classroom. We also every day have a snack time, and that involves sitting down at the table, having a chat in an informal way, and often that's the way that the children start to come out of their shells and they start to tell you a little bit more about themselves and how they're feeling.
We also have to look at, because obviously we're talking about families, there will sometimes be siblings who would benefit from being in the group. But it's particularly important that we look and see that these siblings, that there's not sibling rivalry, that in fact there's not sibling, dependency, because we want every child to go in there and succeed the best that they can without having to worry about anybody else, just trying to put themselves at the centre of it. So once we've done all of that, we can get our group up and running. And then once the group is going, then we constantly review the progress of the children. We look back and do a Boxall profile again, after a period of time, and look and see the progress they've made. And again, it's lovely to have the parents on board and bring them in to do the Strengths and Differences questionnaire again and see from the parents' point of view what progress has actually been made. It's an ongoing process, and hopefully the end of it is that the children have made enough progress that they can reintegrate back into classrooms again.